My name is Harper Quinn. I'm 29 years old. I had just buried my father. The sky over Cincinnati was slate gray, and the rain fell like judgment. I stood at his grave, gripping a cheap black umbrella, mud swallowing my heels. The crowd whispered their sorries, one by one drifting off under the weight of water and grief. But not her. My mother wasn't there. No black dress, no mascara-streaked tears, only a text, stuck in Miami with my partner. Handle the burial. Partner, my fists clenched. I knew who she meant. Ronan Locke. That smug parasite she paraded around in linen suits and fake humility. My father had barely cooled, and she was sipping champagne with her lover. I drove home in a trance, the city blurring behind wiper streaks. When I opened my phone, her post hit me like a sledgehammer. There she was, grinning, arm around Ronan, on some yacht off the coast of Miami. Here's to new chapters, clinking glasses, new chapters. While I shoveled dirt on the man who raised me, my chest burned. I didn't sleep that night. The storm outside was nothing compared to what brewed in me. Then my phone buzzed, blocked number. I almost ignored it until I saw the ID. My father's old number, the one burned into my brain since I was 8. One message: I'm alive, come to the cemetery. Now, what do you think happened at the cemetery? Is my father really alive, or is this some sick game? Drop your theory in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because this story, it's only just beginning. The wind howled through the tombstones as I stepped into the mud. My flashlight barely cut through the rain. Then I heard it, my name, whispered, sharp, impossible. Harper! A shadow stepped forward near the old mausoleum, face drenched, voice real. It was him, Dad. He pulled me into a hug, soaked to the bone, heart thudding in his chest. Alive, real, breathing. It's me, but keep your voice down, he murmured, scanning the darkness. We ran to his beat-up Ford parked behind the chapel. He hit the gas before I could breathe. I flashed back to the day everything shattered. That morning, I was working on ad pitches for a local sports bar when the hospital called. Miss Quinn, your father, Simon, collapsed at work. Cardiac event, it's serious. I dropped the phone. By the time I got there, they told me he didn't make it. No autopsy, no last words. Just a death certificate and a packet of legal paperwork. I called my mother from the hospital lobby. She barely picked up. Simon's dead, I whispered. Silence. Then, well, make sure his shares are transferred correctly. I can't talk right now. Click, no tears, no coming home, just cold surgical instructions. I should have known then. But I didn't. Back in the car, I stared at my father alive and driving fast through the empty streets. How? She tried to erase me, he said. Your mother, and that bastard Ronan. They wanted the company. Our family business, Quinn & Co. Interiors, was worth millions, historic, reputable. My grandfather built it. Dad kept it alive. Mom wanted to gut it. She's been pushing me for months to sign over my control. Ronan told her offshore expansion was the future. I said no. That's when the threats started. Fake emails, board pressure, then the heart attack. But I did collapse, he admitted. The stress was real. In the hospital, I barely had strength to speak. That's when she showed up with a pen and 3 lawyers, told me to sign or everything we built would die. He refused. And then, I asked. She made sure I died on paper. Dr. Elena Merck, his old friend from med school, faked the death certificate. A mannequin in a body bag, smuggled him out under sheets of paperwork and fear. She saved my life, he said. But now we need to save the company, before she sells it piece by piece. We pulled into a crumbling warehouse on the edge of the city. No cameras, no prying eyes, just mildew, secrets, and a laptop. He opened files, emails, ledgers, contracts, all forged, millions funneled offshore. Fake supplier invoices, Ronan's name in the margins, my mother's initials on every page. She's laundering money. They both are, he whispered. And they tried to bury me so no one could stop it. We spent hours cross-referencing files, each document a dagger, offshore accounts, shell companies. Even the house I grew up in had been leveraged behind my back. They've been planning this for years, I muttered, staring at my mother's signature on a contract with a supplier that didn't exist. Every dinner we had, every family vacation, she was building a noose for you. She didn't want a husband, Dad said bitterly. She wanted a partner in crime. Ronan gave her that. I barely slept. We took turns watching the windows, and then her text came. Harper, meet me, estate issues, urgent. I knew what I had to do. I showed up at the house in the suburbs, our old home, now remodeled into a monument of her betrayal. The porch light was warm, deceptive. Mom opened the door wearing pearls, a perfect blowout, and a smile that chilled me. "Darling," she said sweetly, "you look exhausted." She led me into the study, Dad's old office, now redesigned to look like something off a resort brochure. She gestured to a leather chair. "Let's make this quick," she said, sliding a folder across the desk. "These are the new consolidation documents. The firm needs streamlined leadership. I know your father would have wanted that." I didn't answer. I just flipped open the folder and scanned. It was a lie. The signature at the bottom, my father's, was off. Digitally manipulated. It didn't match anything I'd ever filed with the firm. "This isn't Dad's handwriting," I said quietly. Her expression didn't change, not even a blink. She took a sip of tea. "It was notarized, that's all that matters." My blood turned to ice. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. "You forged it," I said, standing slowly. "And you think I'll just sign my name under yours and vanish like he did?" She set the cup down gently and leaned forward. "You're young. You don't understand business. This is how legacy works. There are sacrifices." She was done pretending. "But if you keep poking around, you'll lose everything." I held her gaze, dead quiet. Then I reached for the photo on her desk. It looked innocent, just a framed image of our family in front of the firm. But behind it, I saw the safe I had spotted weeks ago. I walked out before she could stop me. I drove straight to the edge of town, to Walt. Walt Carrick is my cousin, tech genius, sarcasm addict, and the only person I trusted besides my father. He used to do IT security for the firm before my mom forced him out for budgetary reasons. He didn't even blink when I told him everything. She forged Dad's death, and now she's laundering money through the company. "Classic psycho CEO behavior," he said, typing furiously. "But if that safe's still in her office, we've got a shot." He pulled up blueprints of the office tower downtown. It looked like a relic from the 80s, because it was. Security was minimal, just one lobby guard and motion sensors at night. "I'll spoof the security cameras," Walt said, spinning the laptop. "You go in, get what we need. We bring her down." We waited until midnight. I still had my old employee badge from my marketing days. I slipped past the lobby undetected. Walt's voice crackled in my earpiece. "All clear. You've got 8 minutes." I moved fast. The hall smelled like varnish and dust. Old drafts of office furniture were still stacked against the walls. My heels clicked like bullets on the linoleum. Her office door was ajar. I slipped inside, pulled the photo frame aside, and there it was, the safe. A birthday, anniversary. I tried Dad's old password. Click. Inside, a red flash drive, a stack of ledgers, and a manila envelope labeled R.L. Ronan Locke. I grabbed everything. But then the lights flickered, and I wasn't alone. The silhouette in the doorway was unmistakable. Ronan Locke. He wore that smug, cream-colored suit like armor, the kind that screamed, "I don't work, I manipulate." He smiled when he saw me. "You always were nosy," he said, stepping into the office, shutting the door behind him. I didn't speak. I just slid the flash drive into my pocket slowly. My pulse was thunder in my ears. "You know," he said, circling the desk like a shark, "your mother thinks you're soft, emotional, predictable." I stayed frozen. "But I told her you'd be trouble, just like your father. Always digging, always clinging to truth like it matters." I didn't let him finish. I stepped forward, close enough for him to feel the heat in my voice. "You faked a man's death and stole from your own company. If that's your idea of truth not mattering, wait till the feds get a look at this." I held up the ledger, just long enough for him to realize what it was. That's when he lunged. I ducked as his fist sailed past me, catching the edge of the lamp and sending it crashing. I bolted through the hallway, adrenaline screaming in my blood. Ronan's footsteps thundered behind me. "Harper," he shouted. "You don't understand what's at stake." "I understand you're a fraud," I yelled back, slamming through the stairwell. Walt's voice buzzed in my earpiece. "Alarm tripped. You've got 30 seconds before patrol sweeps the block." I burst through the lobby, clutching the bag, and sprinted into the rain-drenched street. Walt's van pulled up to the curb, side door swinging open. "Geo, Geo, Geo," he shouted. I dove in. We peeled off into the night, tires screaming on the wet asphalt. Back at the safe house, Dad was already up. Elena Merck, Dr. Merck, the woman who saved him, was typing on her laptop at the workbench. Walt dumped the bag out on the table, Contracts, bank transfers, the flash drive. We got everything, I said, breathless. She's finished. Elena plugged in the drive. Encrypted but not sophisticated. We'll have it all unlocked in an hour. As she worked, the files came alive, names, dates, bank accounts. The money trail was clearer than ever. 2 million siphoned through fake bids, rooted offshore. Everything tied back to Ronan and Mom. You ready? Elena asked, her fingers still flying. My father nodded. Let's burn it down. We sent the entire dossier to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Elena knew exactly which portal would prioritize whistleblower cases. Within 24 hours, we had confirmation. The files were being reviewed, but Mom must have sensed something. Because that night, I got a call. Blocked number. I let it ring once, twice, then I answered. Harper, she said, voice like acid under velvet. You've made a mistake. I said nothing. Come to the house now, let's talk like family. I didn't respond, just hung up and looked at my dad. He nodded. You're not going alone. We pulled up to the mansion just after midnight. Same glowing porch light. Same perfect hedges trimmed like nothing had happened. But something had. 2 wine glasses sat on the porch railing. Only one was full. Ronan was gone. My dad stayed in the car, watching from down the block. Walt monitored from a drone feed, parked just a street over. I stepped into the lion's den alone, but not unarmed. A mic was stitched into my jacket. Every word was live. Mom opened the door in silk pajamas and a mask of calm, but her eyes, flickering. You really couldn't let it go, she said, ushering me in. Hard to let go when you bury your husband alive, I shot back. She smiled tightly. He was already halfway there. We moved into the study. She poured herself a drink. I declined. You're going to return the files, she said, voice low and cold. Delete every copy, withdraw the complaint, and I'll make you executive VP. I blinked. Are you bribing me? I'm saving you, she snapped. Ronan's already offshore. The rest of the money moves tomorrow. You can have whatever's left, but if you fight me, I'll crush you, and I'll make sure he goes back to being dead. I smiled. You already buried the wrong person. Then I nodded toward the window. Red and blue lights strobed across the front lawn. FBI agents swarmed the property. My father stepped out of the shadows just as they approached the porch. His voice rang clear as he pointed straight at her. That's the woman who tried to erase me. Mom spun, her face a frozen mask of fury as cuffs clicked around her wrists. One agent read her rights. Another handed me a flash drive sealed in an evidence bag, the one from her safe. Ronan's name was all over it. You'll never prove anything, she hissed as they dragged her to the cruiser. Oh, we don't have to, I replied. Ronan already did. 2 days earlier, Walt had traced Ronan's offshore logins. And what we found, he'd been recording conversations with my mother, for leverage, for blackmail, for self-protection. It was all there, every whispered threat, every forged signature request, every instruction to make Simon disappear. Ronan had double-crossed her before she ever realized. Her trial made headlines for weeks. Interior heiress behind $2 million fraud, dead husband testifies in court, daughter brings down family empire in the end, she got 25 years. No parole. Fraud, coercion, attempted murder. The works. Ronan, caught 6 months later in the Cayman Islands, cuffed on the beach with a daiquiri in hand. No one came to bail him out. We dissolved Quinn and Co. Interiors after the dust settled. The name was too tainted. Dad and I opened something new. Harper and Hart. Boutique, ethical, local suppliers only. No shell games, no Ronans, no tildes. Sometimes clients ask if I miss the old brand. I just smile and say, sometimes a fresh coat of paint isn't enough. You have to tear down the rot before you rebuild. The attic light hums as I pry up the last loose floorboard. Dad is behind me, quiet and steady, like he always is when the ground feels shaky. The planks smell of old varnish and secrets. My fingers find a fold of burlap. Inside. A slim ledger, edges frayed, stamped with a name I don't recognize at first. Then the blood drains out of me when I see what it really is. It's not just invoices. It's people. Names, addresses. Dates when deposits cleared into shell accounts. Files marked Client X, discretion paid. Photos, divorce papers, medical records, even social security numbers. My mother didn't just steal from the company. She sold the trust of every person who ever sat across one of our tables and said, "Make my house feel like home." She sold their privacy, their secrets, their safety. I feel something cold and furious and very focused click into place. "This is worse," Dad says softly. He's holding a small, worn box, the one that used to sit on his desk, the one my grandfather kept his drafting compass in. Inside, a brass key. Old, dented, meaningful. "He kept this for a reason," he says. "If they could sell people, they could bury people. This proves intent." We take photographs, burn encrypted backups, and route everything to more than one federal line. The fraud team loves the money trail. Civil attorneys salivate over the client list. But this ledger lets us do something law can't always do alone. It lets us make the people who were hurt whole enough to speak. We contact the clients in private, hand them the evidence, and tell them how to file civil claims. We give victims their power back. And then I do something mean and small and necessary. I invite the press to a legacy reveal at the old showroom, the heart of the business where my grandfather first signed contracts on a splintered mahogany table. I tell them it's about a legal victory. I don't say whose. When Tilda, my mother, hears the reporter's helicopter blades, she finally understands something edges away from her like smoke. Her lawyers advise silence. Ronan calls from a cell bartering for a reduced sentence. She frets about her pearls. We turn the showroom into a stage. I stand under bright lights and push the ledger across the table like evidence in a courtroom drama. Cameras click. My voice is even, small, steady. "This company built its name on trust," I say. "My family broke that trust. Here is the proof." We roll footage, recorded bank transfers, curated lists of clients who were sold to offshore buyers, covers of fake companies. We post redacted names online so victims can step forward safely. We release the recorded conversations where Ronan boasts about keeping reputations quiet. We hand reporters the ledger. We hand civil attorneys the leads. The fallout is immediate and public. Clients sue. Suppliers freeze accounts pending audits. The showrooms that once gleamed with my mother's taste go dark. Banks freeze assets. People who used to send invites to her charity galas now file claims. The firm's insurance refuses coverage due to intentional misconduct. Her social world evaporates like sugar in rain. But the part that tastes sweetest is not the headlines. It's the moment my mother, the woman who taught me how to set a table, but never how to be loyal, watches her world fold from the glass foyer she once redesigned for prestige. She stands behind courthouse glass at hearings, the pearls gone, a paper cup trembling between her fingers. She looks at me, and there's a flash of that old, practiced smile, then nothing. I have no mercy left to give. They ask Dad to testify in dozens of depositions. He does it with a calm I admire. Each sworn sentence peels the narrative back until the whole thing is hollow. They press him about the staged death. He tells the truth. He tells how Elena faked the records to keep him breathing. He tells how we used that fake death like a surgeon uses a scalpel to cut out the tumor. It's ugly and it's legal and it works. Ronan gets 20 years and he never enjoys a single one of them. He calls from prison once, begging, bargaining, and I let the call go to voicemail. The guilt in his voice is fine, pale mist. It doesn't wash away anything. My mother's sentence comes last. It is long and hard. The judge is tired of the scheme's cruelty. "You traded on the most sacred thing in our work," she says, meaning trust. "You monetized pain." The gavel is final. When it's over, we don't chase vengeance. We reclaim. We auction the mansion's contents, not to line our pockets, but to pay back the people she robbed. Her mahogany desk buys food for families who were swindled into a shell company that turned out to be a scam. Her silk dresses buy restitution for a widower who lost his savings when she falsified invoices. Every auction lot is rooted into a trust for victims. Reporters call it poetic. I call it justice. Dad and I keep one thing from the house, the brass key from the little box. When I slide it into my palm, I feel my grandfather there, not as a ghost, but as a memory of steady hands and honest deals. We take the key to the tiny workshop he left behind, the one that smells like oil and pine, and we hang a new plaque above the door. Harper and Hart, honest work, honest pricing. We reopen the boutique with a tiny staff and a neon sign that hums like a promise. We call our clients before our contractors. We source local. We publish our bids. We shudder when I walk past the old contracts room. The ledger is burned in a controlled, recorded event. We make sure every shred is cataloged, and copies are turned over to every client and every investigator. The past is not erased, it's memorialized so it cannot be buried again. And in the quiet that follows, I let myself feel the full shape of what happened. I grieve for moments that can't be returned, dinners that were actually negotiations in disguise, a father who had to pretend to die to survive, a mother who traded love for leverage. But grief mutates into a sharp, useful thing. It becomes vigilance. It becomes a way I look at people now, not naive but careful, not bitter but clearer. There is one last twist, small and private, that I keep to myself until late one evening when the city is asleep. I go back to the study once everything is settled. The room is stripped and quiet. I pull up that same warped floorboard where the ledger was hidden. There, taped beneath, is a photograph I had missed, a snapshot from when I was 6, running through a house that smelled of sawdust and lemon oil. My father, young and careless, chasing me with a cloth in his hand. My mother in the background, smiling in a way that used to mean something different. On the back, in my grandfather's careful script, someone had once written, "Keep this key safe. It opens more than locks." I slide the brass key into my palm, and for the first time since this began, I laugh soft and surprised, because in all their plotting, they never saw this coming. My revenge was never about ruin alone. It was about repair. It was about making sure the little things that mattered, the drafting table, the compass, the honesty of a handshake, outlived the grease and the lies. Years from now, clients come in, sit under our warm lights, and talk about their homes and their lives. They tell me about trust again. Sometimes they cry, sometimes they laugh, sometimes they hand me old family pieces to restore. Each piece becomes a small redemption. If there's a moral here, it's ugly and honest. People will always try to buy their way out of consequences, but money can't buy back the face in a photograph, the feel of a compass in your hand, the truth when it finally comes clean. My father opens his workshop most mornings. He builds a frame with hands that are slower now but steadier. I take calls. I sleep sometimes. I stare at the brass key on my nightstand, not as proof of victory but as a promise. Never again. And when people ask if I miss the old firm, the name, the flash, I pull that little brass key from my pocket, close my fingers around it and say, "No, I keep what matters." That's the real end. Not a headline, not a sentence. A reclaimed thing, a repaired life, and a small key that opens a single locked drawer where my grandfather once kept blueprints for better days. If you want the next one, the story about what we found taped behind the mantel in Ronan's beach house, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and tell me where you think bones of the past will surface next.